Not bad, Leeds United fans. We're back here with a version of the debrief, which is very, very unusual. We never normally go post-match, but listen, I predicted a pretty good fixture for this one. Leeds United absolutely battering Swansea today as they travel down to the Valleys. And we come back with all 3 points as Leeds United surge into the top two. And I couldn't think of two other people to discuss the game with post-match. On the post-match ponder, than Oscar Marriott and Gabe. Lads, I've not spoken to you about that, but Jesus Christ, Leeds United tearing the limbs of a Swansea side who looked levels apart, Oscar. How buzzing are you after that, mate?
Wow. Statement and a half, wasn't it, boys? Statement and a half. Listen, I said after the Rotherham game, it wasn't a statement win because a statement win isn't beating Rotherham. It was a statement performance. That was a statement performance and a statement win. Absolutely destroyed Swansea today. The fact that we have the blow of Bamford picking up, obviously, what we hope is a minor injury. We're 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes. You have massive disruption to that whole way we play, and we just go 2-0 up in the first 10 minutes. Somerville and Perot both score. It's just, honestly, it is some of the meltdowns I saw about Perot starting the game. This guy scored 22 and 24 goals in his last two championship seasons. We give him a chance, he'll score. But what a win, boys. What a win. And the biggest thing is, as well, is what's happened at Ashton Gate as well. That is absolutely huge. I don't want to say too much because we know how much things can change, but interesting, isn't it, boys? It's interesting, a little bit of championship experience.
It's very interesting because we were speaking on the last stream and we were saying that the 13th of Feb, when you looked at Southampton's fixtures, because I saw them against Rotherham, Huddersfield, and I thought, we know what's going to happen there. Obviously, Huddersfield putting 3 past them at St Mary's was pretty unexpected. Throwing them a little bit close. But by goodness, tonight by all accounts, they've been absolutely battered by Bristol City. Obviously, we went there a couple of weeks ago, got a 0-0 victory. Leeds United end the evening in the top 2 with Southampton with just a game in hand. And unbelievably, I know they've got 2 games in hand as well, but we're now 6 points ahead of Ipswich, which is just, it's mental, isn't it? It's, crazy stuff. Gabe, how are you feeling, mate?
Feel great. Complete and total domination. I was a little bit surprised by how Swansea tried to play us in the first half a little bit. They were committing a lot forward, and it seemed that they were gluttons for punishment. I used to date a girl that later became a dominatrix. Not since those days have I seen such a glutton for punishment, willing glutton for punishment. And it really shocked me. I was like, some of these players are going to need some therapy, just as I have. No, I'm just kidding. Look, we're all on cloud 9 here. What an absolute bollocking that was. And it really was. It absolutely was from beginning to end. Look, I know we'll probably talk about the fall off period that happens around, the 50th to 70th minute. But the reality is that pitch was a disaster. It was spitting rain down by then. It's not like they had great high quality chances. The game got messy, but we saw it out. It's a 4-0 throttling. We didn't give up any goals. The performances, even the ones that were unexceptional, were high standard. So I've got nothing critical to say today. I think what just took me sort of aback a little bit was the way Swansea tried to play us. And I was a little bit, I know I joke, but I was a little bit shocked. I was like, I get maybe not being afraid and going for it, but we have the most transitional speed in the league. We have players that thrive off playing a ball through in behind against a high line. It just seemed like a really stupid way to play us. But hey, this manager says that they're improving, right? Down in Swansea. So, we're very familiar with delusional managers at Leeds. So perhaps we recognize one of our own. But yeah, wild match.
Yeah, that was.
Connor was doing toga dances, by the way. He didn't have a toga on, but he was doing he was literally doing this. Looked like one of the bushwhackers on the old.
I couldn't. I thought we'd win the game, but I thought it'd be a bit nervy. I said maybe a 3-1, but I thought our quality. I was expecting a very similar game to what we saw in the first one. Swansea, who were really good possession wise in the first 45, and then maybe Leeds to edge it with a little bit of quality in the second half. But I just couldn't believe how it really was. It was like an FA Cup game, and it's. I mean, I don't know how many times in recent history when we've all been following Leeds that we've seen anything like that, really. And I've said it on Twitter as well. For me, that is the best half of football. The first half we've seen since Bielsa left. It was that good. It was so dominant. I can't think of another half of football that. I mean, maybe Huddersfield, but I feel like to each of a man, every one of them was above an 8 out of 10. It was so good.
I think you've got to put that above Huddersfield for the context of this game. The fact that the pressure was on us tonight. To keep that pressure on Southampton. Really, Huddersfield was earlier in the season. Getting into our full swing in that kind of sense. But I think that's got to be our best half of the season. It was just absolutely phenomenal stuff. As I say, the fact that the whole season is being built around Bamford's pressing from the front, hold up play. The fact that we lost such a key cog in the team, and it didn't look like anyone was missing. The fact that we had Ampadu playing at centre back, and it's just like a normal thing now. We don't even talk about it anymore. I've just spoken about it then, but we hardly ever mention it anymore. The fact that Junior Firpo's gone in and basically playing like Firpo Carlos, isn't he? Basically, it's just absolutely, he's been absolutely amazing the last couple of weeks as well.
Oscar, I need to set you off as well, and I want to touch on it a little bit when it comes to his assist, because I want to touch on his football brain, and I've mentioned him potentially getting to the level of Jude Bellingham if he's managed right. I think he's got all the tools to go to the top level. Archie Gray's football brain at 17 years of age, that I know a lot of people will think, that ball to Willian Yonta when he sort of went through for that third goal was, just a little ball over the top. How quickly he analysed every situation there. Do I pass it back inside? Do I pass it backwards? Or do I swift it over to my left foot and clip it over the side with pressure coming toward me? I literally think this guy is just so, and it's getting to a point now where I'm even going back on myself, because I'm like, is he a central midfielder or is he a right back? Because I'm now looking at it thinking, if he's got more time at right back, he can damage the opposition more at right back. I love him in the midfield because he gives me a little bit of the Steven Gerrard's, but I absolutely love him at right back because he's able to control the ball a little bit more. He's really good 1v1 in terms of a defensive structure, but he's also so good going forward, isn't he, mate?
He's just improving all the time. And I think the biggest compliment I can give to Archie Gray, 17 in a promotion battle, a really intense promotion battle. It's been an intense last sort of 4 or 5 months, and he's just been so consistent throughout it all. If we're going to compare it, obviously you've gone for the big names, Bellingham and your Gerrards and that. Like, I normally do that, to be fair, and get absolutely battered in the comments. So I'm happy to let you do that. But listen, it's funny you mentioned Jude, because the fact of the matter is, if you compare, both in the Championship, Archie Gray's far, far, far more consistent than Bellingham. I'm not saying he's going to be the best player, but I'm just saying, pound for pound, you compare their seasons at Championship level, the pressure has been much higher on Gray. He's played out of position, and I think he's been the far more consistent player. And his performances have been absolutely laughably good, to be honest. I struggle to think of a better sort of debut season from a youngster, not just for Leeds, but at this level, He's just been absolutely unplayable. There's no other word for it. What he 17-year-olds. This is an incredible season.
Mate, you might need to Oscar. You might need to check that mic, mate. It keeps clawing out. Might be just better go.
It's
on
your cable. Every time you move the cable, it comes in and out. So be less
articulate.
Be less excited.
You're not. We're losing.
Archie Gray is the GOAT. That's all I basically needed to say. That's all I needed to say.
Yeah, no, with what you were saying, mate, you're right. It's just I think you were nudging that cable a little bit, but
that's the thing. This Leeds team, mate. 3-0, 4-0, just cooking teams. Could I just throw out one stat I've just worked out whilst we've been on air? Southampton conceded 6 goals in their last 4 days. Leeds conceded 5 goals in the last 2 months.
Get him. I love a good stat.
Massively under the radar defensively. This Leeds team is still. It doesn't give you a chance. This Leeds team at this moment in time.
Also, Southampton are playing crap teams the last 2 matches as well, and they're conceding these types of goals. So if you're them, you have to be worried. I've always been a proponent of just see to yourself, and I gotta say, the level of performance we've seen out of this team, and we had some. They weren't concerns, right? We were just saying, hey, we haven't really played top opposition or anything just yet in this latter half of the season. That the fixtures have been relatively simple so far. That being said, whereas I don't think Swansea are a particularly good team, I will say that it's difficult to go away in those type of conditions and put such a convincing, dominant performance. It's easily,
Gabe, I
in
know
my
you.
opinion,
Gabe, I know you hate the historical context, but we do have to bring it in. We have to
Go
bring
ahead.
it in.
Go ahead.
Historically, down there, it has been apart from the God goal, which we all remember. Historically, down there, whether it be Brendan Rodgers, Martinez, we've been absolutely pumped. Wales has never been a good hunting ground for Leeds United. So the fact that, just to add to your point, the fact that we've scored 7 goals in Wales and we've not conceded the goal, it's got to be highlighted, mate. It's so good from Leeds United, that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just these are difficult conditions to play in, and a team. I mentioned I was a bit surprised how they tried to play us, but I suppose if we had not been up for it mentally sharp, they could have punished us here or there. But I thought everybody was on it, even when things didn't go perfectly. I thought, by and large, the collective performance is what you were looking for. And to echo your point, I don't want to belabor it, but Connor, you're bang on when you're talking about Archie Gray. It's not just what he's doing; it's the speed of thought. And we talk a lot about there being varying degrees of good decisions or decisions you can make. Like, what's an excellent decision versus like the best decision you can make, or just a good or a safe pass. Some of the stuff he was playing today was the best choice he had available, but at the speed he was playing it that's what you look at as a manager and say, yeah, we've got a good one here. Because you never know. I mean, physically looks like he's still going to be developing quite a bit. He's young in his career, 17 years old. I mean, just look at how much Jorginho Ruter's grown up in a year, right?
And even a good example tonight again, Gabe, is Matteo Joseph. Look at how he's filled out in 6 months.
Right. So you have to think. Obviously, you don't know what the trajectory of a player is going to be, but when you look at just the rate of development, and that's I think just the speed of play, and the speed of decision making. And he's not just doing it when he has to. He's doing it when he's in sometimes safe positions as well. It's really, really impressed me. And for me, that's the kind of thing where you say, okay, no matter what division we're in, as long as he physically develops and as long as he continues to improve, he's just going to be a handful. And
let's also, like, Gussie Fink Nottle. I've not been done there, have I? Just tuned in. Sorry if you've already discussed this, lads. How good a manager do we think Farke is? Is he ace or just working with God? I think what's impressed me, and I have just said this on the instant match reaction. If you guys haven't checked that out, go and do that after this. But I have said that there has been maybe a couple of points where I maybe have been wrong about Daniel Farke, and I'm old enough and ugly enough to admit that. But I think his man management, as of right now, as in, I think we have to be really careful with what we say, but when we are being specific when it comes to keeping players motivated, which I think is the hardest job for a manager.
Yeah.
When you look at Gruev, when Gruev has been out for as long as he was out, and for him to come back in and make that impact, Willie Gnonto, I think when he's come in for Dan James, I think he's been absolutely excellent. Listen, Ethan Ampadu wasn't coming out of the side, of course he wasn't, but for Ethan Ampadu to go in at left centre-back and concede a goal alongside Joe Rodon as a centre-back partnership, how he's managing these players and keeping them motivated in whatever position and them just being included. You even look at Matteo Joseph at the end, just chasing down absolutely everything. Gelhardt putting in a really stellar performance against Plymouth not long ago. These players, he's able to rotate, which I think we had a bit of a question with at the start. But when he's rotating, these players are coming in and doing a job. So you've got to give him kudos for that.
Well, actually, go ahead, Oscar. I just got done.
Well, 100%. Just to answer the question, I think it's a bit of both. Listen, there's quality in this team. It would be disingenuous to say that this is a Bielsa style job that Farke's done, but it's different. The pressure's a lot higher on Farke. We'll say that much. It's far higher than it ever was on Bielsa. The expectation levels were much lower, especially at the.
There it's gone.
Doing with this Leeds team, you have to give him credit as well. The likes of Somerville, as you've already mentioned, Gnonto, Gruev, keeping them focused, in terms of when they're not team. He's a massive man management skills in that kind of sense, especially at a lower level as well. Is the mic okay?
Oh, it's all right now.
Oh God, what am I doing with this mic?
No, just keep it still.
Mate, even if you just want to, yeah, we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure the subscribers will tell you. But if you've seen them bob up, don't get your kits off, Oscar.
Let me piggyback off what he's just said. I mean, because I agree. I do think the Christmas thing is hilarious. At least it's not a different channel's logo this time. I do think the comparisons with Bielsa are inappropriate, the ones that people are making. But Oscar raises a great point that he's operating under a different pressure system. He's even though they're allegedly giving him 2 seasons to go up, it's pretty clear that he's not going to have a better chance or an easier chance than he's going to have this season, right? So, and we've been critical of him in certain areas, and I think the criticism was justified. But nobody on this channel has ever said that he wouldn't be good in this division. The big questions we had going into the new year were, will he? The excuses are done, right? Because we talked about August being an excuse and stuff, and we said the excuses are over. Now he's got to turn on the gas. And to his credit, you have to give him credit. You can't take away from him by saying he has a great squad. Southampton has a really solid squad, and they just dropped points and they've been playing. So to win 5 matches in a row in the league right now is a big deal, and the kind of run we said we wanted to see him go on. So I have to give Farke all the credit in the world, and if he can shut us up, great, awesome. We want nothing more than Daniel Farke to success.
100%. Oscar's might get
did he buy it from Sky Sports?
Oscar's might getting a lot of heat here, and we would like to welcome Oscar back to the show. Here he is. How you doing, mate?
Hey!
We are on this. Oscar, I will say on this channel, as you probably know, we are used to technical difficulties. So welcome to those technical difficulties.
We'll have to get you a mic like this, Oscar. Late Christmas present.
Yeah, I've basically wrecked my mic, to be honest. To be honest, there's any excuse to get rid of it. It's gone now, guys. That is it now. Apologies if this isn't particularly great audio quality. I'm literally speaking through the computer now, so it's But guys, I'll
tell you what. Let me set you up, Oscar. What were your thoughts on?
What question I was answering now?
What were your thoughts on? And I think I want to get everybody in the comment section below's thoughts on this. And I've mentioned this. I don't know if you've noticed this with Crysencio Somerville. Listen, on the ball, his ball carrying abilities are just. I love watching him. I think he's so good. Still quite raw in certain situations, which just shows his ceiling because he can improve and improve and improve. And he's only young. But have you noticed his pressuring abilities and how much he's absolutely pressing these fullbacks into it? They can't handle it. If they have 1 or 2 touches too many on the ball, Somerville's on them like a flash, and it's a nightmare. And a lot of the time, he's recovering the ball in the attacking third, and Leeds are able to recover it and cause a few problems there.
Oh, 100%. It's not just the fact that he's for me the best player in the league. He's one of the hardest workers in the league as well off the ball. He's just absolutely relentless and an absolute machine. That's the only way I sort of could describe potentially Somerville, but one that just produces the most amazing football, in terms of pound for pound at this level. Just phenomenal what he does week in, week out. But yeah, and it's not just Somerville either. Rutter, I think his work rate has gone through the roof this season. And Bamford, as we already know.
Is he getting better? Oscar, is he getting better, Rutter? I feel he's getting. I feel his decision making is getting a lot better.
He's always improving. I think the thing with Rutter is he's still got that flair, but I think he knows how to balance it out a little bit more. When the pass is there to be played, he plays it now. There's no trying to beat 2 or 3 players and then play the pass. The pass is there to be made, chance to create a goal. He'll take it now. His decision making is getting better all the time. I think Somerville is getting better all the time. This is the thing about him. His bad spell of the season is now well and truly gone. He went 3 games without scoring. It was like this massive.
As if that's a bad spell as well. Like you have to score every week to be doing well. Like
it's nonsense, isn't it? Well, he was still probably the best player on the pitch at Bristol. So there was absolutely no question about it. In terms of Nonto's work rate since he's coming to the team, it's been amazing. The fact that Dan James, I think, was having a great season. Nonto has gone in there, and I think he's just took it up another level. I think in terms of pure talents, ball carrying, and just the ability to just win games on his own. That's something you see from Wilfred Gnonto. And listen, I think we've always said he's a higher potential player, but I think now you're really seeing Gnonto delivering that output now. It's 4 goals in 4 games. He wasn't really a goal scorer before Farke arrived, so it's another player it feels like Farke's taken to another level. And the fact that you've got Gnonto, Rutter, and Somerville in a front three at this level, and a 3 behind the centre forward is just, it's always going to produce magic. It's impossible not to play beautiful football with that front 3. And I think just the way Farke manages that front 3, in terms of keeping it focused and making sure the work rate's there off the ball. It's all well and good, having that talent, but the work rate with it as well to make sure we're pressing, we're pushing teams back, and we're dominating football matches. All comes from the pressing side of things. Because let's be honest, start of the season, I think one of our biggest things that we spoke about on the debrief, probably for the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, I don't know if you guys remember, was about the pressing or the lack of press. Because if we were playing nice stuff, but there was no press at all, teams could get out quite easily against us. Now teams can't get out. And when they do get out, they either have to play a long ball, and Joe Rowan's going to win that. It's simple as that. Joe Rowan's going to win that all day long, an aerial ball. If not Kamara, if not Gruev, if not Ampadu, Pascal when he comes into the team. The team physically, technically, is just so well balanced. And pound for pound, genuinely, this is one of the best assembled Leeds teams we've had for a long time. In terms of pound for pound, obviously it's not at the level of the Premier League team, etc., in that first season. But pound for pound, this is what we've been able to do with this Leeds team. The depth we've got in that front 4. The fact that Joel Perreault, a guy who's scored, almost 50 goals in 2 championship seasons, has only got into the team because Bamford's got an injury, just shows the level of consistency, performance, and just how good you have to be to get into this Leeds team at this moment in time. The fact that one of Dan James...
Oscar, do you know what? So I'm just going to add to that as well, mate. Do you know what has impressed me a lot when it comes to the Leeds side? You mentioned the word balance there. I think Junior Firpo being on that left-hand side, being a left-footed left back, has made such a difference. We're not having 3, 4, 5 touches to then move Leeds up the transitions, to get the ball under control, to then move it, to then get it onto your left foot, to then maybe cut inside. You're literally getting Junior Firpo having the ball and being able to play 1-2s with Crysensi or Somerville. They're having nice little trio passages of play with Glenn Kamara or Gruev when they're coming inside. And it's just a much more natural way of moving the ball up the pitch. I think his involvement in this side is massive.
Well, Connor, too, think about this as well. So Oscar was doing a great job talking about that front 3. In seasons past where we've had really good attacking players, like we think about Pablo Hernandez, we think about Mateus Klick at this level and things, most of those guys were the finished article in terms of their potential. None of the players that we have, maybe Pirro, I would keep off this list, but none of the guys that we were just talking about have reached their peak yet at all. They're not even close. They're in their early 20s.
Just to add in, sorry to disrupt, but
no, go on.
He's only 25, you have to remember.
Right. Well, about Pirro, yeah. So I'm kind of like on the fringe with him. But when I look at Somerville, when I look at Gnonto, when I look at Jorginho, heck, when I look at, you can look at Archie Gray, obviously. They're hitting these levels, and we can still see holes in the game. And because you're going to with young players. And one thing I'll give Daniel Farke a lot of credit for, because we talked about some of the frustrations we had about a lack of rotation earlier in the season. I think we all mentioned that. But one of the things I'm going to give him credit for now is by doing that, he's allowed some of these young players, because when you have youth, you're going to get frustrating matches like the Rotherhams where we couldn't break them down. Now they've had time. And I really think that it's made a lot of difference. Like some of the decision making, even when they're not on it, I mean, there were a couple times where Gnonto was in. Maybe he could have done better with his chances. Maybe Somerville could have done better a couple times. Where in times past, maybe the heads would go up and maybe they'd remonstrate a little bit. Now they're right back on it with a press, and they just come again and they come again. I mean, imagine being in that Swansea team. It was relentless. And to Connor's point, when you do have a Junior Firpo playing and making quicker passes, being able to turn out towards the touchline, and actually play forward. It allows that young attack to be relentless. And I'm really excited if we could keep this core group of players together, because we've talked about, there will be some guys that won't be with us if we get promoted, and it's still an if. But I imagine that the main cast of attackers we have will be with us. I'm really excited to see what these guys can do as they continue to grow, because when you think about the season that Somerville's having, and I know there's debate about, is he the best player in the championship? Is he having the best season? Yada, yada, yada. But the point is, he's a young guy doing this. And Jorginho, given some of the things, the things we've seen him do, he's a really young guy doing this. Same thing with Willie Gnonto. The future is really, really bright if we can keep this core together.
Oh, absolutely.
It was I felt it was a particular highlight when he married Donald Matt Grimes. That was quite nice.
Well, Joe Allen didn't like that, did he? Joe Allen, who still plays football, apparently. I wasn't aware.
Yeah. Exactly. Michelle's in the building.
I thought Joe Allen retired after when we beat. You know, remember that Leeds Stoke game, Bielsa's first game? I thought Joe Allen retired after that game. Didn't I see it?
He looked about 90. He looked about 95 then as well, didn't he? Michelle says, "Hi, Connor, Gabe, and Oscar. Nice to catch you live from Vancouver." Yeah, shout out to you, Michelle. A big fan of the channel. Go up and get there's a lot of Leeds fans getting excited. There's a lot of Leeds fans in here making plans for next season already, which is good. Brandon says, just need a strong number 9. Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about improvements in the number 9 position, I mean, I think we all took a quick sort of gasp when we saw Bamford out of the starting 11. You probably didn't, Gabe, which is fair enough. But I did think to myself that at least that front line is disrupted a little bit. But Perot came in. Still think it was one of those Perot performances again.
I think you're being harsh. I think you're being. I listened to you in the live reaction. I think you're being harsh.
Yeah,
because I think it's easy to forget some of the work he's done. I mean, he had a couple of instances where he was like surrounded, 3 guys on him. He still managed to hold the ball, turn out, and play a good ball back into the center space. Did a good job with retention. Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be the guy bombing forward, but we've got 3 other guys on the pitch that were doing that, and so. I thought you were being a little bit harsh. Where he wasn't anonymous. I thought he made a lot of timely interceptions, did some good defensive graft.
I didn't say he was anonymous
for a number of time. Yeah, you just said it's one of those performances. And remember the language you used to talk about his performances. What was the term you coined for him?
Someone told me that term. Someone said it on my stream.
Wasn't you? Okay, yeah, but that comes from a typical performance. So that's why he got it. So, I thought he was fine.
Yeah,
he wasn't a top performer in the match, but I thought he did well.
Yeah. I think this is probably a good way of putting it. As Dan says, Pro scored and then took the night off.
No, he didn't. It's not true.
I thought Perot was fine tonight. I thought, even without the goal, I thought it was much, much more like it from Perot in the 9. Listen, it wasn't Bamford level, because Bamford, in terms of physically what he can give you, in terms of holding it up, and that was my worry tonight when I saw that bit of news. It says, who's going to hold the ball up? At Swansea, and they're going to try and play out the back and keep the ball themselves. But Perot did a fantastic job in that kind of sense. And my little theory of Perot is, I think it can work quite well with Gnonto. In terms of when Perot drops in, Gnonto was going ahead of him and making those runs inside. And we have to remember, Gnonto started out as a striker. We have to remember this. Gnonto did start out as a striker. In terms of the way he plays on that right hand side, it's totally different to how Dan James plays. In terms of Dan James is more off the ball, making those runs in behind the fullback and just constantly, getting in behind, the opposition back four. Gnonto is obviously a bit more to feet, but Gnonto in those central areas is absolutely lethal. In terms of when he gets into those inside channels and that lot, he's absolutely lethal in terms of creativity and getting goals. And I just think with Perot and Gnonto, maybe that could work quite nicely. I think sometimes you see certain players work well together, and I just think those two potentially it could work quite well. There's a couple of nice combinations between them, and the fact I think that's probably the first time they've played together since Ipswich away back in August. I think, and it was a whole different system back then. But this Leeds team, I just think, is getting better and better by the week. It's not a fact that I don't think this is even the peak for us. I think we can. Still think we can get better. I still think there's another level we can go up, to be honest with you, certainly on the ball. And it seems mad to say, when we won 4-0, but I still think there's still better to come because Somerville's getting better by the week. Rutter's getting better by the week. Gnonto is in probably the best form of his career at this moment in time, in terms of, certainly for Leeds United. And yeah, there was still more to come from this Leeds team for me.
Well, Oscar, what does that gear look like? Do we score 9 goals a game against teams like this? Is that what that gear looks like?
It's not necessarily in terms of the scoreline, it's just in terms of doing this against even better sides. Listen, Swansea.
Yeah, all right, no, fair.
Swansea and Rotherham are not good football teams.
No,
That's my hot take today. They are not good football teams. But we're showing we can do this against Ipswich's. Can we go and do this? Yeah, Plymouth last week, was another big one. I think they're a better team than both Rotherham and Swansea. So I still think
barely, but I see what you're saying. We haven't played Southampton again. We will, and that's going to be like the central question of the season for us. I mean, obviously, if Southampton start losing matches, which I don't suspect that they will. I mean, I know that you have to look at their past 2 and you think it's a little bit worrying, and maybe they do slow down. But you sort of want to just plan on the fact that they're probably going to sort it out. We need to keep winning. For me, it's all going to come down to, can we beat them in a head-to-head when we play them again? And I think if we play like this, I think you're right. Maybe that next level is we're beating teams like that convincingly. But
that's what I meant. No criticism at all of the Leeds team last 3 or 4 weeks. It's been absolutely.
Oscar's like, we're still in third gear. I'm like, how many gears are on this car?
We've been stuck in the second and a half gear for a long time this season. But no, listen, in terms of our form, this calendar year, we have been the best team in the league this calendar year. There's absolutely zero question about that. The fact that defensively, we're absolutely crushing teams now with the ball. And we're just on the momentum with us is certainly with us at this moment in time. And the fact Southampton, yes, they've been winning games, but they've been conceding a lot of goals. Huddersfield could have gone the other way on Saturday. It doesn't feel like that with Leeds. We're winning games. Apart from Preston, we're winning games so comfortably at this moment in time. It doesn't feel like we're ever at risk in games at this moment in time. Obviously, there will be times in the season where we will, have some dodgy results still between now and the end of the season. It's the nature of the league we're in. We have to remember that. But you have to make hay while the sun shines and all that, and that feels like what we're doing at this moment in time. This is.
Hang on. What did you just say?
Oh god! I messed it up. It sounded better in my head.
No, but what did you say though? Say it again. I sort of missed it.
What was it? I've tried to. If we're putting it in football terms, I'm presenting
No, you have to say what you just said though. You have to repeat it verbatim so I can understand. Say it again.
I tried to be too clever. God's sake.
Do you know the best thing about that was? It was like when you were trying to say that, it was the thought processes going through your head at that time. You just really think.
I still don't know what he said, Connor. What did he say?
Make hay whilst the sun shines.
That's it. Make hay whilst the sun shines.
That's it.
Listen, I can't say anything. I was referencing my ex-girlfriend who's now a dominatrix, but it's very hard for me to make fun of you right now.
You just said it very slowly, 5 seconds between each word. But yeah, momentum's with us, and we know how big momentum is at this level. And
Leicester's looking bigger. Leicester's looking bigger and bigger by the day, isn't it? Leicester.
Of course it is. That's the game that still, it could disrupt us. There's no question about it. But if we play the way we have done last few weeks, we can cause any team problems. And I do still think teams that play more openly against us, like Swansea did, as you said, Gabe, like Plymouth did, we can destroy. I genuinely, I would use those words. We can destroy. If you're trying to play a high line and not particularly compact against Rutter, Somerville, Nanto on this kind of run of form, Perot as well, you're going to get destroyed by this Leeds team. There's an inevitability about this Leeds team at this moment in time, which is we've not had for a long time. Even under Bielsa, I wouldn't say we were this inevitable. I think
settle down, Thanos, with the inevitability. But I do see. So one of the comments is adding on what you said. So Darren just said Farke does this every season post Christmas in the championship, and he's right. And we talked about this when we got Daniel Farke, is that maybe it'd be a bit of a rough start, but when his teams rev up in the championship, it's very, and it does feel like we're running downhill, doesn't it? To a certain extent. Or as you might say, at this moment in time, I do think that I'm a little bit concerned about a lack of adversity we've seen over the last couple of weeks or so. What are you laughing at now?
Just you saying I'm a little concerned after a 4-0 win.
No, not about the match. I'm not concerned about the match. Look, we have a young team. It's always going to be my concern. So if a team comes out and punches us in the mouth in the first 10 minutes, how do we respond? So there's still questions. when I say I'm concerned, I don't mean I'm going to stay up and say, oh, we're not going to get promoted, or, oh, this isn't good. It's not good to win a match 4-0. No, of course it's fantastic.
I think we've had.
There's still some unanswered questions, and they're answering it every week. But
Gabe, I will say, I think we've had that this season, though. I think we've come back from the most deficits in the division this year. I think we've been 1-0 down and come back more than any other team. So I think they've sort of answered that in a strange sort of.
Maybe. I think my feeling's more that just that with young players, you sometimes don't, and we've seen a little bit of inconsistency when they're playing like this. And again, this is credit to Daniel Farkas' management. He has these players in a vein of form that's excellent right now. We're going to get stiffer challenges, Oscar, as you've mentioned. So we'll see what happens. However, to be in second place right now, I mean, granted, Southampton have a game in hand on us, but to be in second place right now, and to have a more favorable run of fixtures certainly plays to our benefit. And every week that goes by, I have a little bit more confidence that we're going to keep our foot on the gas and really put some of these teams to the sword. Because that's
9 and 11 now. 9 and 11. So,
and those little runs of form, quarter of a season putting on, a run of form like that. That's what gets you top 2 at the end of the day. Those little runs. We're not going. Really, the reality is we're not going to win 10 games on the bounce at this level because it's just.
I don't know, Oscar. I don't know.
7 of
5 in a row.
No, I've said that for a reason, boys. I've said that for a reason, a very specific reason. No chance we're going to put 10 wins in a row together. I'm going to say it again.
You can't spin hay and make it gold, can you, Oscar? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was trying to think what I was going to say then. But yeah, the inevitability of this Leeds team is that we just turn up and we're battering teams at this moment in time. Even the Bristol City game, it was a 1-0 battering, really, in the reality of things. And I'm not saying this Leeds team's better than the Bielsa team, essentially, but individually in certain areas where you need that ruthlessness, your Somerville,
the squad strength is better. I think you're right. Yeah.
That's what I think really. I think teams fear this Leeds team. There's no question about it. No matter how good the other teams are that we've still got to play, they will be panicking about having to stop Somerville and Rutter. I've kind of said before about Firpo coming into the team. The fact of the matter is, Firpo being a left-footed left-back allows him to stay on that touchline and Somerville to cut inside and just have a complete free roll. And that is where he's at his disruptive best. Rutter, similar with the fact he's got Nonto on the right, can interchange positions. How many times tonight did we see Nonto through the middle and Rutter on the right hand side? It's just so fluid, and it's great to see a Leeds team play this way, really. But I do still need to talk about defensively, the defensive side of things. We're so good in that area of our game as well. We don't lose the focus. It feels like an insult if a team has a shot on target against us. You look at Joe Roden, it feels like he's insulted if a team has a shot on target against us at this moment in time. It's the standards.
I think he had a bit of a strop, didn't he, when there was the deflected shot and pass.
He did. He wasn't happy. And by the way, I want to throw a challenge to our members. If any of it, this is for our members only. So if you want to get on this, I will send somebody 20 quid if they can make a solid graphic of Oscar as Thanos saying we are inevitable.
No, because it will
post it on Twitter and tag One Leeds FC. And if they have to be from our members group, but I will send. What was it? Did I say 20 quid? 20 quid. Via,
so you're hoping one of our members has that sort of graphic design talent. Then
it could be a terrible Photoshop job. I don't care. You can just color out Oscar purple.
If we're gonna get cooked, at least make it look good.
No, I'm gonna choose the winner. we'll decide. We'll decide who wins.
I think people desperately want to make some sort of graphic design of Oscar and that furry Mike. To be honest, that's the vibe.
It's gone.
It's actually good for like censorship that hasn't happened.
It's gone. Yeah. I've broken it. I actually have broken it. It's like I don't know what I've done to it. It's excitement.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much analysed it all, lads. It's been a brilliant night, a brilliant performance from the boys. And listen, Southampton go on to West Bromwich Albion away, and we got a Plymouth away. So let's see how that one pans out. But Leeds have just got to keep this going.
How many times are we going to play Plymouth Argyle?
I know.
I feel like we played them 3 times in 4 weeks. Like it's horrible.
Say Argyle again.
3 times.
Argyle.
You said it quicker then.
Did I elongate it? Argyle. No, Oscar, you've missed this meathead every time. Like today, it wasn't so bad, but the last game when he was doing the live stream, everything he saw me write in the chat, he was saying, "Well." I'll read Mr. Anthrope's comment. Great night, great comment section. That's what Connor would have done.
Oh, it's all a laugh, isn't it? But lads, we will be back probably next Tuesday with the next edition of the debrief. Please like the videos and go watch the instant match reaction if you haven't already. Check out the watch along, which was a hoot. And we will see you on the other side. Lads, thank you so much for joining, and we'll be back with the debrief very soon. Cheers.